I think one of the reasons I didn't think I could grow that much is because my time perspective did not allow me to look far enough into the future. And I was only thinking, well, how much could I grow this week? How much could I grow this month? How much could I grow this year? And now I actually have more belief, which has allowed me to have a longer time perspective. And now I'm way more willing to do the stuff that kind of sucks, but I know will pay off long term.
And the question becomes, why would someone with low self-belief think long term? It's chicken or egg. If you have higher self-belief, you'll think a little longer term. And then when you do, and then you eventually achieve it, then you gain more self-belief. But it's that chicken or the egg, so you kind of have to start small. So start with a day, then a week, then bi-weekly, then monthly, then quarterly, then yearly, and eventually you learn how to think more long term, but you do have to start small if you don't feel like you believe in yourself a lot at the beginning.
Next Level Nation. Today, for episode number 2011, it's so hard to grow without this. Alan is making me laugh. This is one of those late recordings, 8 o'clock on a Tuesday right now. It's been a long freaking day.
Did you hear me fade off?
Yeah.
Beginning.
I could tell you were holding your breath.
Brutal.
350 marked down from 10.
What's that from?
Liar.
Nice.
Episode 2011. So hard to grow without this. I had a lot of breakthroughs in that speech that I gave, which is interesting because I'm somebody who, when I go do I get an experience, I get lessons, and then I have stories. It's like, oh, I want to do a podcast episode on that. And one of the thoughts I had when I was talking about, what was it? The improvement. I was talking about how we've done 2,000 episodes, and in the beginning we were terrible, but we just try to get a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better with the understanding. You had an understanding, I had a hope, I think, that eventually that would add up. And I had this moment where I said, if you don't have like pretty high self-belief, there's no part of you that's thinking, well, if I just do this 2,000 times, I'll get really good at it. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's not happening. And my thesis with that was your time perspective affects your belief in your growth. Because if you can only, and sit with me on this, hang with me on this, ride with me with this, whatever of those makes the most sense. If you can only imagine yourself a year from today, it's probably going to be really hard to imagine yourself in a very different place than you are today. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry. Real quick, Kevin, real quick. And I apologize to anyone watching or listening to this.
Yeah.
We will bring value, I promise. Do you have a window open, man?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I can hear something like wind. It's just...
Yeah, it's nice out there. That's going to go. That's gone in post-production. That goes away.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that goes away.
It's freaking me out, man.
It's nice.
I'm just glad it's you. Now I know what it is.
Yeah. I have the office window open. There's a nice breeze coming in from the woods.
So I'm going to I got asked on a podcast earlier. A woman named Lori. It was awesome, and she said, "What is unique about your content?" And I said,
"Nothing at all.
nothing at all. The fact that it takes us 20 minutes to get to the value." No, what's unique is I actually think that we're playful and fun and funny, more you than me. But the other piece of it is we analyze things from two different lenses. Kev, in the beginning, had very low self-belief and a very short time perspective. I didn't. And that's why I constantly ask Kev stuff on the show, because I feel like you could help you understand this better than I could. I'm speaking to a group of undergrad engineers tomorrow in a business class that I found out about earlier today. It was supposed to be a business panel, and then the professor got back to me kind of late, and it was literally earlier today, and it's like, okay, 11 o'clock tomorrow. Because he said, I'll see you on Wednesday. And I was like, it's Tuesday. And then I looked back at our thread, and it was the 19th. I'm like, wow, time is flying. But my point of this is, I'm going to open... Kevin had this insight behind the scenes, and I'll share it here. He said, I think that you have to understand the level of true self-belief in the room before you speak. Not just me, but everyone. So you gave a speech at a mastermind that was $50,000 a year. And these are very successful people statistically. There's a high level of self-belief in that room, right?
Very high, yeah. Very high.
Okay, 0 to 10.
The vast majority of people, I would say, are 8 and up.
Do they know that they are?
There was somebody who wanted to work with us in some capacity from that group. And on it was either our first or our second call. It's a couple. It's a husband and wife. And I think it was like the second call, the second time I had ever talked to them, he said, "Give it to us straight. Like, what's the biggest issue? Like, where's our biggest mistake?" And I said, "If you don't start treating your business like a business, you're going to fucking die." And they both started laughing. They're like, "All right, cool. Yep, we got you." You can't say that to most. I mean, that's a dangerous thing to say to somebody if they don't have a lot of self-belief.
Yeah.
Because they're going to think, "Well, Kevin's kind of an ass. Like, why would he say something like that?" I wanted them to know that I see a ton of potential in them, and I don't think anybody else is going to tell them that. I don't know. I don't think anybody else has told them that yet, so I wanted to really give it to them. So that the example I use that for is they have very high self-belief, and I think they know it.
And I want to share this as well, but I want to make sure that anyone watching or listening, this is taken out of context. This would be perceived probably wrong, and that's not how I mean it. I was on with a client who is a millionaire, and 5 years ago, he said he was going to do everything that he's done now. 5, 6, 7 years ago. And he's like, I had more clarity back then than I do now. And we were talking about his net worth goal. And we got on a financial calculator and we did the numbers based on where he is now and where he'll be in 10 years. And it's, upwards of 5 million. And that's if he does nothing else right. It's like just coast mode. And I said, dude, you're aiming too low, in my honest opinion. Like that's my truth. Now here's the problem. Everyone else isn't going to come up to him and say, hey, you're aiming too low. I said, this is the problem. Everyone else in your life is really impressed. And I'm kind of, but not really, because I know that that's nothing close to your potential. And with a couple little tweaks, I mean, we can jack this up. And it's good for everyone. We actually went through why it's good for everyone. The way he's building wealth is good for everyone, right? And we actually unpacked that. And so I'm trying to get him to up the ante. But that's predicated on his level of self-belief. His level of self-belief is very, very high. So I'm trying really hard. So the undergrads tomorrow, and again, maybe I don't know if I'm better to answer this than you, but what do you think their level of self-belief is?
Less than you do. I used to. You and I are both losing our voices just at the same second.
8 o'clock at night. Yeah,
for some
it's
reason.
been a day.
The reason I used to think that a room like that would have a super high level of self-belief is because you were in a room like that and you had very high self-belief.
Yeah.
But just because somebody is super smart does not mean they have a ton of self-belief.
Yeah.
So probably less than you think, maybe more than I, but I don't know, man. I mean, you and I, we went and spoke to a fraternity, your old fraternity,
Mm-hmm.
and I was surprised. I mean, you could tell pretty quickly there was just a very high level of insecurity. I would have been insecure too. So but it's easy to kind of forget that.
Yeah.
So probably
that wasn't a. So the chapter of my
No, I know.
Yeah, that was a national.
I just
that
mean
was
in,
people
in
from
general,
all over the country.
In general, I mean these are.
But you assumed college kids were probably more confident than they really are, because you didn't go to college. Is that fair?
I just assumed if you threw 200 men in a room, you'd see a lot of confidence. I think.
Like college.
Yeah. But I was surprised with a lot. I mean, there wasn't a ton of clarity, and I think there was a good amount of humility too. Like I was pleasantly surprised and impressed with how much. So maybe what would have been disguised as confidence through arrogance wasn't there, but that could have been a piece of it too.
Yeah. Well, the insight, going back to the self-belief and time perspective, we just got off of a group coaching session an hour ago. Shout out to Voices Unleashed, Group 17. They are one session away from ending their 12-week program, so they're technically graduated, but there's one more. But that was the last presentation, and it was built on this concept of playing the long game. And we kind of took them behind the scenes of NLU from the inside out instead of the outside in, and how different that is. And that's also why our voices are struggling right now. But congrats to anyone in Group 17. And for anyone who wants to join Group 18 who's a podcaster, reach out.
April 15th.
Yes, April 15th. Okay, so if you have, and this is the thing too, it's very challenging to gauge someone's level of self-belief because it's something that is inside of them.
Well, what
you
if
can't see it. Really.
What if we did this? What if we did this? Whether you're watching or listening, define or label when it gets comical. Okay? So imagine you doing your thing, whatever it is. If you're an artist, cool, that whatever that means. Poetry, music, painting, watercolor, what's the other one? Charcoal, whatever. That. If you're an author, that. If you're building a business, that. If you're a chef, that. Just imagine whatever your thing is. Cool. How good at it do you think you will be a year from today? How good at it do you think you'll be 5 years from today? How good at it do you think you'll be 10 years from today? How good at it do you think you'll be 20 years from today? 30 years from today? 40 years from today? 50 years from today? If you're still hanging around at 50 years and you can really think to yourself like, okay, 50 years from today, not from a place of delusion. Like, well, I think everything's going to align and I'm going to be... No. Like, we have to have some... There has to be some actual strategy. Because that's not confidence, that's potential delusion. And or just with kindness, I don't mean it in a negative way, but potential ignorance as well. Because that was my thing. It's like, eventually I'll just be successful. No. You got to kind of have some pieces to the pie here. If at 5 years, you're like, I can imagine that, but I can't imagine 10. Okay, that's where we start. I don't think it's as cut and dry as confidence, because confidence without direction isn't necessarily constructive. I mean, it's probably more constructive than not having self-belief, but because in group coaching today, you were talking about how you were doing the numbers of if you improve this much. And when you got to 50 years, or when I saw it on there, I was like, I wonder how many people would actually ever resonate with that.
Yeah.
Because I don't.
I was with Emilia's family on Sunday, and I playfully said out loud, like, well, I figured, because they started from very humble beginnings, and they did very well. And I'll keep that all high level. But I remember saying, we were watching home videos of when they got married, and this is back in the 1991 is when they got married. So they've been married 34 years, and we were just reminiscing. And I was talking to them about their dreams, and when did you decide to do it different? Because entrepreneurs. And it was just a really cool conversation. And in a playful mode of that whole entrepreneurial conversation, I got really pumped, and I was like, well, I always said my career wouldn't even start until I was 50. And I said that, and I could tell there was a moment of breaking rapport. Like, what does that mean? And I want to break this down. I think I have a good example. So Emilia and I are watching Black Hawk Down. Came out in 2001. Now, let me provide some context to this. Gladiator, the first Gladiator movie, is Ridley Scott, the director. And I've always been a big movie buff. Film. Kevin asked me one time, what's the difference between film and movie? And it's basically just a pretentious way to say it. Movies and films are the same. I think movies are more for entertainment. Film is deeper. I think that's a better way to... But anyways, so Ridley Scott is a filmmaker. I mean, he opened with a Plato quote for Black Hawk Down. And Gladiator is one of my favorite films. We watched Gladiator 2. I loved it. Most people didn't. Whatever. Doesn't matter. The point I'm making is I was watching the film last night with Emilia. Super pumped. I got home theater going on. Dream come true. And I told Emilia, I said, this is a world-class movie. If you have not seen Black Hawk Down, it is awesome. Now, here's the fascinating thing. And again, time perspective. I said, sweetheart, you know what's really cool about this? This is one of the most famous movies in history based on true events. And Ridley Scott was in his 60s already. You don't get, dude, the cast in that movie. You know Tom Hardy's in that movie?
Yeah, Tom Hardy. There's
Ewan
a
McGregor,
lot.
Josh Hartnett. I mean, I can keep going. The cast in that film, I would argue,
Vince Vaughn. Isn't Vince Vaughn in it?
No, you're thinking Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan.
The cast of Black Hawk Down, I would argue, is the most prestigious cast in any movie in history. That's my bet. I would bet money on that. Now, the guy from Sandlot, the kid from Sandlot, is in that movie.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've ever seen it. I have a story about it. I'll save it for later.
Well, Emilia has never seen it before, and it's 2001, and she was 5 years old then. I'm kidding. She's 6 years younger than me. We joke. But here's my point. Just looked it up. Ridley Scott is 64.
When he made that, or now?
When he made it.
When he made that.
He's in his 80s now, still making films. Now, it's not that crazy for me to say that I sent you a Warren Buffett clip recently. Did I send that to you? Mm-hmm. When I say I'm going to start my career in my 50s, I don't mean to sound arrogant. I actually mean that that's when things are actually going to pick up.
Question. Okay, good. Question. How would you teach somebody to use that? I just had a breakthrough. And this is what we do at NLU. I think sometimes the reason it seems arrogant is because you don't tell people how to do it.
Okay. I don't know if I know how to do it.
I know. But that's
which
why I'm
is
challenging
actually
it.
Humble to say that, I think. I don't know how to teach that.
Three easy payments for your course, your VIP course, $5,000.
Well, when I put it in context like that, Ridley Scott's still making movies.
I don't know if it lands, though, because it never landed for me because I assume Ridley Scott has something that I don't. Well, he does. I'm not a filmmaker, and I'm not.
Here's what he really has that you don't. He has 50 years doing the same thing over and over again, getting a little better each day.
Do you think he was any better than your average director at the beginning?
Yes. All right. Let me give you this. I do think that there is some genius in that man. I don't know him, okay? So he might be, behind the scenes, he might not even be a good person, okay? So please don't associate me with Ridley Scott. His films, Napoleon, his films are world-class. He's one of the best filmmakers in history. And now studios just say, do whatever you want. I knew yesterday, little side tangent here, we were on Netflix and I saw it. And I was like, we got to watch that. Have you seen it? She said, no. I said, it's good. The history is good. And the cast isn't, it's just a must for anyone who loves film. And we've been on kind of a kick of those types of films lately. So I was like, no, we can't watch this one though. She's like, what do you mean? I said, I guarantee you there's a director's cut. So I went and I bought it. Okay. It's $14.99. Kev, don't freak out. I'm kidding. But I bought it. And the reason I bought it is because her and I like the director's cut of Napoleon much better. There was no director's cut for Gladiator because the studio was like, you know what, Ridley, do what you want with the film. So for those of you who don't know the film industry, when a director has final cut, some filmmakers, in the beginning, they have to prove their stripes. If you have too many flops in a row, the studios won't even work with you. Right. But if you film after film after film, so Steven Spielberg, for example, Jurassic Park, E.T., like all Jaws, all that stuff, it's like Steven Spielberg won't even start a film unless he has final cut. Because these directors can't stand when the studio slices up their movie. And so I personally, as a film lover, I love the Gladiator Extended Edition. The director's cut is so much fucking better than the theatrical version. But again, I love film. That's like you wanting to hear rappers behind the scenes versus their theatrical version, right?
I'm so pissed there isn't a better podcast where people ask them deep questions.
Well, maybe one day you'll be able to.
Maybe.
So here's the deal, to answer your original question. I do think there's a hint of genius there. However, if you take away the compound effect of consistency over time, it wouldn't matter. There's a lot of, I know a talented filmmaker. I don't know if he's going to make it or not. I think he has a hint of genius, but it doesn't matter if you don't have work ethic and consistency over time. And that's the whole thing of work hard beats talent, but what happens when talent works hard? And me, in my past, I am guilty of resting on talent. I mean, I could literally party all night and get straight A's on calc exams without going to any of the classes. That was just talent, right? But I wish that I had taken it more seriously, because after 26, in my car accident, I started to realize that it doesn't matter how talented you are. I don't care. And that's what going back to my millionaire client, I don't care, dude. Like, congratulations, you're better than this. You can't be pumped about mediocre results when you're gifted.
It's hard. I don't know. I think it's just one of those things where you just have to get going. And I think maybe the more you do it and the longer you do it for, the more your time perspective expands, because I don't know. I'm fully bought in now on, okay, just get a little better, and I have been for a long time, but now I'm really starting to see it.
Well, it's 8 years in, so you're really starting to see the impact. I mean, you can speak with very little prep and do a really good job. That's just the compound effect, right?
Not tonight. Our voices are not happy. My sincere apologies to anybody watching or listening, because, again, we don't really do edits, so we're not going to edit out every time we do that, just because that's just not how we do it. I do apologize. We will take care of our voices better moving forward.
Well, this is where we need to transition it to you. As someone who didn't think this way, how did you start? Because I honestly don't know. Mine would be start small, build.
I tried to keep up with you. That was pretty much what
let's say you take me out of the equation. How would you coach Kevin 8 years ago? Like, how would you get him to start igniting the power of this concept? When I say Einstein said that compounding, the law of compounding, is the eighth wonder of the world, what does your brain say?
Now or 8 years ago?
Both. Give me both.
8 years ago, like, what are the first 7 wonders of the world? And
the
why
pyramids.
is it 8? You think I fucking knew that?
Oh.
I didn't know
that.
that.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
What's number 2?
You know...
You know all 7?
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I knew the pyramids were one. I don't know any others.
Bermuda Triangle, right?
No. That is not even fucking real. The Bermuda Triangle is not even a real thing.
Why do you say that?
It's because it's not. Just like the Loch Ness Monster isn't.
The Bermuda Triangle is a real thing. It's a.
I don't believe it.
It represents a triangle that's dangerous based on weather.
Well, yeah, but not like, I don't think it's the second wonder of the world.
That might be true. I don't know. Let's look it up.
I'm intrigued.
Pyramids, Gardens of Babylon, Zeus at Olympia.
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
There's one in Turkey, Temple of Artemis, Colossus of Rhodes in Greece, Lighthouse of Alexandria in Egypt. Oh. The new 7 wonders of the world, modern list.
There's multiple lists?
Yeah, apparently. Taj Mahal.
We've gone down.
Colosseum.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Great Wall of China.
Ah.
Okay. Now, again, I don't care who knows that or who doesn't. And what I do think we need to get back to is, when I say that Einstein said the law of compounding is the eighth wonder of the world, what did you think before?
Nothing. I thought nothing before. I don't even know what compounding is 8 years ago.
So you presuppose that other people had something you didn't. That's like always the presupposition?
It still is. Just less than ever, I assume. And I think I'm accurate. I think there are people out there that just have way more confidence than I do, who are willing to take shots that I'm not yet. I think that's factual. I don't think that's a limiting belief. I think that's an accurate belief. Next Level Nation, we are very, very excited to announce that we are doing our first purely virtual Next Level Live on April 5th, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Alan and myself We'll be live streaming from Worcester, Massachusetts.
Next Level Live 2025. Be there. It's only $47 for a full day of personal development, self-improvement, holistic health, wealth, life, and love.
We have a global audience. Obviously, if you live somewhere else in the world, it's hard to come across the country or across the world for a one-day event, so we wanted to make sure it was accessible to everyone.
You're not going to get to the next level of your life by default. You're going to get there by design. Join us. Design that next level.
So yeah, it was always that. It
Yeah.
was always, and now it's almost like, in a weird way. I had a client send me a message today, and he's like, "I was at this conference with this giant guy, super big, super famous, like super successful. You should get in his program, really help you take your business to the next level." It's like, brother, no. And he was like, "Yeah, this guy told me like his hack to go viral on all these channels," and it was like, this is an interesting thing because that's not real. And this is a case where I think that person has something, not the person who was talking to me, the person who was teaching him has something I don't. He has less morals.
Yeah, the willingness to sell out.
So that's different.
Well,
It
what
goes
does
both
Kevin think
ways.
now? So Kevin used to
compounding?
think, what are the other 7? What does the new Kevin think?
It makes sense. I mean, it really makes sense. And God, I mean, if you're going to do something, but even that, it's like, if you can dedicate yourself to something for a year, and I'm not saying you have to do it every day. I just mean like this is your thing and this is a priority for a year. And I know that's a long time and that's a big ask. If you're going to do it and you just focus on getting a little bit better every time, a little bit better, sometimes you won't even notice it.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the year, when you look back, you're going to be a completely different person.
Yeah.
But I would never explain it with numbers. I don't get it. I don't really understand. Now, what I am curious to is when I do start really leveraging that from a financial thing, like when I'm stashing away money and I'm focused on it compounding, maybe it'll make more sense then because I'll actually see the numbers. I think it's hard when we talk about it from a place of like potential. Like you're 37 times better than you were. It's like, I don't know what that means though.
Do you feel 37 times better at podcasting?
Yeah, definitely.
Look at your calendar 8 years ago compared to now. You're 37 times more capable for sure.
Yeah.
This is the thing that's really hard to understand too. I'm very grateful we just got a really big client in our podcast production company. And I talked to Kevin about it after we got the W's. It's only the last 8 years of getting a little better that we're even capable of handling all this. I mean, the Kevin back then, quite frankly, couldn't get this client.
No. But
right, we didn't have a team. We didn't have our website person. We didn't have me. We didn't have, you can't just.
I know.
You can't just snap your fingers and, The other thing that I really wish was true too, think of like the Harry Potter movies. And I know I'm talking a lot about movies, but Emma Watson was cast in that. She didn't have to do anything other than act. There had to be a studio that fronted the money. There had to be a bank that the studio lent the money to. There had to be marketing teams and branding teams. There had to be costume designers. There's a million things. So Emma Watson got famous on the back of other people's work. And I'm not making that wrong. I like Emma Watson. I don't know her, but you understand what I mean? It wasn't Emma. It's not like she happened to get kind of lucky in that. And the studio and all the people behind the scenes. There's a lot that goes into why those movies are successful rather than just the person you see on the screen.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that are actually more the reason it's successful actually don't want to be on the screen. And that's what we talked about fame versus behind the scenes. And I'll never forget this. There was a producer that we interviewed, Brant Pinvidic, and I think I told this story in a couple episodes ago, but I'll go quick with it. He was one of the people that was a producer on Extreme Weight Loss and some Bar Rescue, some other big shows. And I remember I was at a wedding with Emilia. It's actually the first time we ever slow danced together. And it was in Newport. It was amazing. I actually asked her to be with me that night. But there was a group of people there from, not National Geographic. It was like, what's the Home TV or something? There's like a big one.
HGTV?
That one, I think. Or one like that. And I knew that they would know. Because I know that's a small world.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in television, you're going to know Brant's name. If you're not in television, you're not going to know Brant. Unless you know your wife knew the turkey or whatever. What was the rooster? It's a famous rooster he had or something.
Yeah, I don't remember what the name was. It was
there was a famous YouTube
creature that he had.
Yeah. But anyways, so that's the thing is, you see people's success from the outside in. And you don't fully understand that they spent usually a decade or two, sometimes 3 or 4, building that from the inside out. And all along the way, they actually didn't feel very good necessarily about it or about themselves.
What were you going to say about Brant? You just stopped in the middle of the thought, I think.
About Brant?
Yeah.
I think my point of that is the people in the industry know him and know what it's taken to get to that place. But what's a good example of this? A better example. I think that overnight success, that the iceberg thing, and
I have a good example.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it hasn't happened yet, but we had somebody on the podcast, I don't know, 2019, named Justin Freeman. World-class rapper. Like one of the most talented. He's world-class. He is supremely talented. Let's say he's young. I think he's younger than we are. Let's say he was to go viral and blow up in 5 years. We talked to him in 2019, 10 years before he made it.
Yep.
And there's some people who know of him, but most of the world doesn't yet. And if he makes it, it's because he kept grinding and getting better and improving. And so
stuck with it.
That's a good example potentially.
It is. And to make that land too, because I thought of Justin as well on this podcast, this episode. When Kevin and I interviewed him, Justin Freeman has very high self-belief.
For sure.
And Kevin said, well, of course, if some random stranger hates on your stuff and thinks you're a bad rapper, that's not a big deal. But if Eminem were to say you suck, I mean, that would crush you. And I was like, nope, Kev, you do not understand this, man.
For sure.
And I said, no, that wouldn't affect him at all. And then he confirmed live. He's like, yeah, that wouldn't bother me at all. But that's also because I could recognize his level of self-belief. Now, whether or not he keeps the humility and work ethic long enough to actually do this is another story. But I knew that he was the type that it doesn't matter if Eminem tells him or if some random person tells him. He knows that he's capable of it. And I actually would bet money he would make something of himself. But again, I don't know him behind the scenes, and I don't know if he's fallen for delusion or whatever. I don't know. Okay? So, and I take nothing from him. But I do know what it feels like to know in your heart of hearts and in your soul that you can do this. It's a question of whether or not you will.
But how do you know if it's knowing versus delusion?
I
mean, how many people, I've talked to so many people who are like, I know it's going to happen one day. And it's like, there's a difference between the empowering thought that you believe one day it'll happen and then knowing how to do it. Those are two very different things.
Well, you taught me this. You said, look at the actions. Like the reason you knew I wasn't delusional is because you saw my actions.
Yeah, but it's hard to know how long those actions will last. That's the hard thing. It's like,
yeah, it is. I don't think I was ever good at recognizing delusion, brother.
Well, that's fair.
I think I am now. Much better.
Well, that's a question for everybody out there, as opposed to you and I having the answer to it. Because I don't have the answer to it. I think my next level lesson for this episode would be if you're not bought in yet on getting out of your comfort zone and doing things that scare you and all of that stuff, you're leaving just so much opportunity on the table. Not just, in 10 years you're going to regret it. I'm not saying that. But if you believed in yourself a little bit more, you might have a more specific visual of what 5 years today you want to look like and what you believe it could actually look like. And I think that's why, for a lot of people, it sounds arrogant. Because if somebody came up to you and said, well, in 50 years, Why couldn't I have a net worth of $10 million?
You absolutely could, mathematically.
Right. But if you don't have that belief, somebody might say that's super arrogant to say.
Well, if you look at the math, that's actually not.
I know it's not
Like,
even that impressive.
Here's my question, and again, let's have a brief dialogue about this. How do people think people get wealthy? Like, if 50 years doesn't do it, what the hell does?
I don't know. I never thought about the time. All I thought about, and I don't know if I could make this land or not, I'm thinking about my now versus them arrived. I'm not thinking about before for them.
Yeah.
I'm only thinking about where I am at this unique point in time and where they are and how much further ahead they are. And I'm not there. I'm not close right now. That's what I used to think of.
Yeah, and I think that, and again, this has created many blind spots, and I certainly don't know everything, but one thing that has always come naturally to me is reverse engineering. So even Ridley Scott's whole career, I mean, I can analyze it and research it. It makes perfect sense. James Cameron's very old as well. Same deal, right? So he didn't even do Avatar till he was what, 64, 62? Like,
I don't know how old he is.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's in his 80s now. Again, we'd have to look it up, but the point is that it is a math equation. And I know that if I could show everyone step by step by step where you and I started, and I could actually unpack every little step we took along the way, it wouldn't surprise anyone that we've gotten here. I think that you just can't do that. Right?
I got some. How do you, and again, someone in the world, how do you make an algorithm that shows where somebody is today, where they'll be if they continue doing exactly what they're doing? Like, how does that get created?
It's a math equation. That's what an algorithm is.
I know that. I mean, how does it happen? You want me to do it? I can do it. I can do it this weekend if you want.
So I have a client who is a YouTuber, and I created an algorithm that calculates a projection.
How do you do that with human potential? Because I don't think the numbers, it's like, yeah, if you put $1 in, it's like, yeah, good, I'm not $1 though.
Okay, well, if you took a picture of you when you were, I don't know, so you're 35, okay, yeah. Let's take a picture of you at 30, let's take a picture of you at 25, let's take a picture of you at 20, let's take a picture of you at 15, and then let's take a picture of you at 10. And then you showed that, you'd see a trajectory, and you'd see a peak in fitness in your late 20s, and then you'd see a massive drop off of dad bod with all the love, and then you'd see another, like, you're coming back. I mean, coming back in a big way. I'm very impressed.
I appreciate it.
And I don't say that lightly. But that's what transformation photos are, is a picture of someone's potential. You ever see one of those bodybuilders that was a skinny mini like me?
Of course.
And they're massive now. It's a whole lot of drugs, but it's also the compound effect.
It's so
and you've done it naturally.
Though.
So it's, yeah, exactly. Well,
it's so external.
That is one of the problems about this is, and this goes back to the episode we did last time, and then we'll get out of here. The episode we did yesterday, I talked about how the unsung hero is brainstorming.
Yeah.
This brainstorming session that we just had, anyone watching or listening, and you and me, there's nothing tangible whatsoever that has come of this. But this is the unsung hero. These brainstorming sessions that we have is what has created the awareness that is necessary to achieve success. And so read the book, The Compound Effect, or go ahead.
I was going to say, these are some of my favorite episodes. I love the episodes when there aren't any answers. I don't know if it makes for a good podcast. I'm sorry if it doesn't. This is what we have. Yeah, there's been courses, and yeah, there's been a lot of books, right? But it's been deep conversations more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's been this.
Conversations change lives, and Kevin used to say, when they're hyperconscious.
When they're hyperconscious.
And that's where it all started. That's what this started as, and that's what this always will be. One way or another. It'll package different, it'll be framed different, but ultimately it'll never go from that main core. So my next level lesson is read The Compound Effect. No, my next level lesson is ask yourself how far into the, you know what, actually, Everyone research. You can Google or ChatGPT, whatever you use, Bing, whatever you use. I'm kidding. But whatever you use, little nerd in me coming out. How dare you use Bing instead of Google? I'm joking. I don't have any. Whatever. I had one of my clients recently look this up. I said, you need to look up the psychological concept of projection. The human mind can project into the future. Other animals can't do this as well. Right. So we can project into the future 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years out. Now, it's a skill and it's a muscle. So some people can project very far into the future. Some people can only project a week. So I had one client, I had her close her eyes. I said, okay, picture you a day from now. She said, yep. I said, a week from now. She said, yep. I said, 2 weeks from now. She said, yep. I said, a month. She said, whoa. She's like, got blurry. See, now, to me, and she said there was shame attached to it.
The blurriness?
That's not, yeah. She said, I pictured, and she showed me a picture of her. She said, I pictured me fat and in shame. Mm-mm. I was like, whoa. So you're fear-based. That's a fear-based response. You're so fearful that you're going to end up overweight or whatever. Now, she's retraining her brain to think more positively and more long-term, and she's crushing. And I don't want anyone to feel bad for where they're at now. I want you to figure out where you are now and then build that muscle. I mean, that is, in the neuroscience, that part of the brain is the most important. Emilia and I take care of our brains because that's the most important thing.
Like,
that's what makes me.
That? Is there a book that's like?
Neuroscience books. But this, you can research this. I'll do it real quick because the psychological define. Tell me everything you know. ChatGPT. Tell me everything you know about the psychological concept of projection, future projection. And then we'll just see what comes up. I've never done this before, by the way. I've researched this, but not on ChatGPT. Let's see what it comes up with. Future projection is a psychological concept that refers to an individual's tendency to mentally stimulate or anticipate future events, emotions, and experiences. It plays a crucial role in decision-making, motivation, goal-setting, and emotional regulation. Future projection can be both conscious and unconscious, influencing our behaviors and expectations about what is to come. Everyone can research this. I highly recommend you do. All of your current decisions need to be based on what the future outcomes are. And again, that's based on data. It's based on a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I think it's so much of it's belief.
So much. Agreed.
It's like
Agreed.
if you won the lottery today and you believed you were going to die tomorrow, you would spend all of the fucking money.
Terrible idea.
But if you believed you'd be around in 100 years, you'd save, or whatever, however many years, you'd save more of it. Like that.
Yep.
That is such an example of you burn it all if you don't think you're going to be there to burn it the next day. It's weird. All right, we're going to get out of here. Oh, you have something quick?
I got to say one more thing. That's why I always say the average life expectancy is 79 for women, 77 for men. Because that data is critical. You don't want to play a short game in a long life.
Ooh. Quote that.
And that's now. I mean, medical breakthroughs. I mean, you can research. You can research all the things that have gotten. I mean, poverty is better. Starvation's lower. Crime is significantly lower despite what the news is saying. Like, you can look at the statistics. And if you're playing a short-term game in a long-term life, you're potentially in trouble. I mean, why wouldn't you just get in credit card debt? And why wouldn't you just, right? So again, no one knows for sure what the future holds, but you can make some educated choices based on what you think is most likely going to be based on learning from the past. History is to learn from the past so that you can project into the future, and that's what the chess masters of the world do. That's what these business owners are doing. That's what stock investment is. If I invest in Kmart right now, that's really dumb. I don't think you can because they went out of business, but like Amazon or Kmart, it's obvious now. But what was it in 1996? What was it in 2001? What was it in 2007, right? So you can predict outcomes in advance without having to do them. You don't have to, get hit by a car to realize you should look both ways.
Well, you might once when you're young.
Well, that's why 2-year-olds,
I know.
It's the parent's fault, not the kid,
Yeah,
because, awareness. So anyways, that's the next level lesson is look up projection and see what your time perspective is, because that's a good starting point for sure.
Man, a deep one tonight.
Appreciate you talking about it, man. I love this stuff.
Of course. My apologies again to anybody. Our voices were not the best on this, and I don't take your listenership for granted, so we have to take care of our voices better. You more than I, because you speak more than I do. I was behind the scenes all day today for some reason. Here's the problem. I didn't have any water. That's my issue. I ran out of water after my last call. All right. We're going to get out of here. Next Level Live 2025, April 5th, 2025, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. One of the common questions is, am I allowed to just kind of come and go? Or if I show up, do I have to be there from 10 a.m. to 4? No, you can come and go. You can pop in. You'll have access to the replay. So if you buy a ticket, you get the full replay. If you can't make it for the whole day, it's all good. We just appreciate you coming, and you're going to learn something. If you're there for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, the whole day, you're going to leave with more than you came with. That's the goal. And if you have to pop, no worries. You get access to the replay. That'll be then. And then April 15th, the next round of group coaching is starting. So if you're a podcaster who wants to focus on leveling up yourself, leveling up your podcast, and you want to turn your podcast into a business eventually, or maybe you're stuck where you're at within your business, we'll have the link in the show notes for that as well. As always, we love you. Oh my God, you have something?
Good.
He's good. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Keep it next level. Next levelers.